Well, hello everyone. My name is Achan Wade Puripanyo here at Empty Cloud Monastery with Samanera Nipako. And we're going to be doing the monk chat this evening, as usual on Friday nights. It's an opportunity for you all to type in questions for us to answer. Questions on anything related to Buddhism. And we'll see if we can answer them. We allot an hour and a half for this, so we have plenty of time. Usually have plenty of time, but sometimes you'll have a lot of questions, which is wonderful. And so a great variety, a profusion of Dhamma curiosity, which is always very nice. And so, as I said, I'm joined here by Samanera Nipako, and as well as Samaneri Kewala, and Anagarika Samasiha, and three lay meditators as well who have joined us to take advantage of the residency program here at Empty Cloud Monastery, living by the monastery schedule and meditating to deepen their practice and have closer contact with the teachers here. So, have a little bit of an announcement. It's me here and Samanera Nipako, partly because Bhante Sudasso and Ayasoma have gone to the Italy monastery, Lena Pavana, or Meditation Cave Monastery. And Ayasopana, the new abbot of Empty Cloud Monastery here in West Orange, New Jersey, is away traveling since the annual Wasa is over. The Rains residence has ended recently, and the Katina was held here on Sunday. And so this is quite common. Once the rains are over, monastics are traveling, and so I came after my wasa at the Ashokan Meditation Center out in upstate New York. I'll be here for a couple of weeks, and I'm very glad to be able to join everyone here and to do this live stream as well. And so Nipako, can I ask you to go ahead and greet the people who are online? Samanera Nipako is going to say hello to everyone who's joined us online, because he can read the fine print more easily than I can.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all. Hello to Evgeny, to Ryan Martin, to Cynthia, Bhumika, Sean, Diane, Jayanta, and anybody who is watching but hasn't put in a comment yet, or who will be watching this later.
Welcome everyone. Great to see you. Many familiar names. All right, and so without much further ado, why don't we go ahead and take the first question, if you'd be willing to read it off.
Maybe Namatasa first?
Oh, Namatasa, okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
So our first question comes from Evgeny, and they ask, any advice on how to practice after making a really big mistake in lay life?
Okay, so interesting question. Any advice on how to practice after making a really big mistake in lay life? I wonder if there's, occasionally people put in more clarification later. I wonder if this person might have, but don't post anything. Okay, just try. So, well, of course, a lot will depend on what kind of a mistake you mean and what the consequences of that mistake are. But in any case, when we're preoccupied, so a general kind of answer, if we're preoccupied by events that have taken place in the past, we can notice that things that have happened in the past are gone. They're over. All conditioned phenomena, of course, have three characteristics. Characteristics of impermanence and unsatisfactoriness and not self. if we notice that things that come in and out of our lives, and even our roles in life, and our bodies, and even our own actions, are all impermanent. They come and go. Then they're not really us and ours. And in this way, we can let go, meaning not be preoccupied or emotionally involved with something that's taken place in the past, even our own actions. And this will free the mind up to practice our meditation. We also can learn, of course, from the past. And so once we've practiced with letting go, so that the mind becomes more calm and even with regard to things, then we can, if we want, we can take a look back at what happened and see, how did this come to be that I made this mistake? And perhaps learn from it. And if we like, we also could make a confession, confess it to a friend in Dhamma practice, or someone simply who is a good listener, or whom we respect, or perhaps a monastic. And we think to ourselves, and we're going to try to do better in the future. And we can do that at any point, actually, whether we've already been successful in letting go of the event from the past or not. And this may help us with the letting go process as well, in addition to the contemplations of impermanence and not self. We can contemplate these characteristics in kind of a normal state of mind, you know? Or if we do that and we're able to let go a little bit and then and get into our meditation at some point, then if the mind is calmer, we can bring this up, if it doesn't come to mind automatically, and notice the impermanence of it, that this event is over. This mistake took place, but now it's gone. That actually it may be more helpful for letting go once the mind is calmer. Yeah. All right, so those are some ideas I can suggest too.
Thank you, Ajahn. So Ryan Martin asks, on behalf of a friend, today I had to explain the concept of karma to Christian fellows, and I couldn't give an answer to their one question properly. If karma has ending, shouldn't it also have beginning? My friend goes on. I explained that this question won't bring any good because that's wrong application of mind. What matters is what you do now. I also told them that karma is beginningless. Bhantes, how would you address this topic of karma within the context provided, please? Thank you.
How do you feel about answering? You want to go for it, or?
Sure, I can try. So I guess the first thing to come to my mind with this is how familiar these Christian friends are with Buddhism in general, and it's sounding like they're not very familiar with it. I come from a Catholic background, so there have been times where I try to explain these things to curious family members. And I've noticed that the number one most successful thing is how willing they are to step back from the current worldview they have. So a lot of the time I actually don't find this conversation to be very productive, because they're not so much trying to actually learn how to use this in a way to benefit their practice, but instead in a kind of gotcha or corner you sort of situation. So I find in situations like that, it's actually best to not engage in conversations about karma, because people like to try to simplify it, or they don't accept when the Buddha would put questions aside. And that's because the Buddha in general had 4 categories of questions. He had categorical, analytical, cross-questioning, and questions to be put to the side. So the workings of kamma is something that he has stated is something only a Buddha can see, and that questioning it too far will drive you crazy. So, in the instance of your friends' trying to probe questions about this, it's going outside of the bounds of where the Buddha's teachings are supposed to be applied. So, when he puts something aside, that means he's basically saying that this type of question is not being framed properly because it doesn't actually lead to the goal of the practice, which is nibbana. So, if I was speaking to somebody who is able to respect those boundaries within the Buddha's own framework, then this is something that I would go into deeper. Without the context of what these friends are like or what they're open to or not, it might actually be a conversation that is best left aside for now, because otherwise it could just lead to quarreling based off of views. And if it's something the Buddha hasn't really expounded about, explaining anything further would just be your own ideas anyway. And it's not good to misrepresent what the Buddha did say or didn't say. So these are just some ideas that have come to mind for me. Is there anything you're thinking about, John?
Sure, yeah, different way of talking about it came to mind. The when the Ryan, the person who typed in the question, when Ryan talks about karma being beginningless, I'm guessing that Ryan, maybe you mean that people have been living beings, I should say, not just people, but living beings have been making karma throughout the long round of rebirths, stretching back in time. And as I understand it, according to the suttas, the Buddha said that he looked back 91 eons, 91 great eons. Apparently, there are different grades of eons, and he meant the big ones. And he couldn't find a beginning point where the wandering on of samsara started. And so, technically speaking, that doesn't mean that it's beginningless, but simply that the Buddha, if there is a beginning, if there was a beginning, the Buddha couldn't find it, because even he couldn't look back past 91 great eons. But when we talk about kamma, kamma means action. And from the Pali language, it's the same as the word karma from Sanskrit, which is now an English word, of course, too. But it means action, and each action has a beginning, and it changes, and then it comes to an end, as to the results of each action. And so, well, we might say that living beings have been making kamma for a very long time. Every single instance, every single action has a beginning and an end. And so maybe that's one way of answering it. Yeah.
That's a really good answer. Thank you, Ajahn. Mary says, hello, Bante. Welcome.
Hello, Mary.
And then James also says, hello, specifically to Bante Wade. And then Ryan asks, Dear Bantes, may I get your perspectives on Anguttara Nikaya 4.170, where Ananda speaks of the 4 ways to attain arahanthood, i.e. Sama Vipassana, Vipassana Samatha, Samatha, and Vipassana. The 4th is what I am not clear on. Could you expound on this, please?
I'm not sure I can remember it. What is it? So what is Sama? So is that the 4th one? We might have to look it up if we want to answer this question. Just to make sure we get it right. Working from memory is always, can be uncertain. But is the 4th one practicing Vipassana to the point that the pollutions of insight, the corruptions of insight arise, and then let's see. Then what does it say? So while I'm talking, Samanera Nipako has brought up the sutta on Sutta Central. And, okay. And so in the sutta, the Buddha is talking about the relationship in practice of practicing samatha and vipassana. Samatha is calm or calming practice, and vipassana is usually translated as insight into English. Perhaps also could be translated as investigation or looking in various ways or looking thoroughly or looking into things. And so the Buddha in the suttas, at least a few times, he recommended to his disciples to practice samatha vipassana or calm investigation, which you can talk about each one on its own as well. And
So it's
where are we here? And so we're looking now at the sutta.
here.
Oh, sorry, say again?
It's from 6.1 to 6.5.
Okay, thank you. So this section of the sutta says, another mendicant's heart is seized by restlessness to realize the teaching. Oh, let me ask. Okay, so it starts there and goes down to there. Is that simply the fourth instance?
Yeah, this is
Okay,
the
simply the fourth. Okay. So, so if we go back to the live stream, so the first one is talking about the 4 different ways practitioners might practice samatha vipassana to attain arhatship. One practice is what's the difference? Oh, develops samatha to a greater extent first, and then develops vipassana, kind of to match it or to level up to attain arhatship. The second one practices, assuming this is right, actually, the way it's got it written here. Then the second one practices vipassana. It grows in vipassana first, develops vipassana to a greater extent, that is, and then levels up on samatha afterward to attain arhatship. Then another one practices samatha and vipassana in equal measure together, kind of, you might say, kind of side by side or equally. And then the fourth one, okay, I'll read it from the sutta here. The fourth one, another mendicant's heart is seized by restlessness to realize the teaching. But there comes a time when their mind is stilled internally. It settles, unifies, and becomes immersed in samadhi, concentration. The path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. Okay. Okay. Well, frankly, I'd have to read the sutta some more, really to understand it, what it means by this fourth one. Seized by restlessness, so they're experiencing the hindrance of restlessness, but then the mind settles down into samadhi, and then the path is born. And one way of understanding the path is that it's, at least in the meditation aspects of it, it's the development of samatha vipassana. So I have to admit, how to understand that sutta, or that section of the sutta, I don't really understand myself. I have to look into it some more. Sorry about that. I wonder if do you have any ideas? Do you have any insights into it, or have you heard any teachings on that section?
I have not. Other similar suttas normally end with the samatha and vipassana at the same time, or with animitta samadhi, but this one's different.
Okay.
And
sorry, Ryan.
For now, that's the last question online.
Oh, okay. Well, so maybe we should challenge some of these people. Shell and Mary, and you. And it looks like Robin hasn't written any questions in yet, but there's there's an open door. We have plenty of time, and one more question just came in, and then we can also look to the people here in the room as well. But why don't we go ahead and answer this one first?
So Carolina asks, hello Bantes, could you give me some recommendations about how to approach a 10-day Vipassana retreat by Goenka's method, and do you have any opinion about that method?
Well, let's see how to approach it. So, let's see some basic things. I'll have to assume that you haven't done a 10-day retreat before. Maybe you haven't done a 10-day meditation retreat of any style before. but if you want to clarify some more, you can. Um, so we go into it with an open mind. And they say one thing we want to do when we're approaching meditation practice is to go into it with beginner's mind. Even if we do know some things about meditation, and we have some experience with meditation already, we want to come into it with an open mind, not with any expectations of what might happen during the retreat. And simply try to sincerely follow the directions about how to meditate once you've gotten there. You also want to try to live the lifestyle that they recommend. So they probably, I want to say that I've never done a 10-day Goenka retreat. I've never even set foot into a Goenka meditation center, unfortunately, despite their great reputation. But they probably have some precepts for you to follow, and have guidelines for interaction with the other people there and with the facilities there and so on. So try to abide by those. It's good for. It seems that it's worked very well for people's practice, and also helps everyone to get along well. And whenever you experience problems in your meditation, if you simply understand that this is normal, that meditation practice can be quite surprising. It can be wonderfully blissful one moment, and it can be terribly painful the next. And there can be quite a bit of time where it seems very dull. But all kinds of things can happen. And if you simply have an open mind and have the mindset that you're going to be okay with it, and whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And if you bring up whatever happens in your meditation interviews, the times you have to do question and answer with the teachers there, assuming that they have that, I believe they do on the 10-day retreats, and try to be open to what they say, and see how to put their recommendations into practice and test it out and see what kind of results you get. That way you can learn from your experience and learn from yourself, and learn about yourself. And there's an old saying in Buddhism, is when you go into a place, say a meditation center or a monastery, and you're going to experience things about that place that you like, and you're going to experience things you don't like. And that's normal. And of course, no place can be perfect for everyone. And no place can be perfect over time for anyone either. It's always going to change, and our likes and our dislikes are going to change as well. And so there's an old simile that when you go into a meditation center or a monastery, and you're going to be living there, it applies to other places as well. You want to go in like a honeybee, and not like a fly. So when you're a honeybee, when they go into an area, they're looking for the beautiful flowers. They're going to harvest the pollen to take back with them to make honey. But a fly, when a fly goes into some place, they look for something different. and so you want to have an eye to what is really good here, what works well, what can I learn here to take away with me for the rest of my life that I can use. And so in that way, look for and be open to the really beautiful things. Those are some ideas. And in terms of the any opinion about their method, according to my understanding, not having practiced it, but from what I've heard over many years, they traditionally practice anapanasati, which is mindfulness of breathing, and something often called body scan, so being aware of the sensations in the body. And it sounds like so many people have found it to be very beneficial. Many people have entered monastic life and embarked on monastic life, having started out on a Goenka retreat in lay life. And so it's changed their lives, actually, in a very positive way. So while I haven't done it myself, in general, mindfulness of breathing, and I think being aware of our bodily sensations in the present moment can be incredibly productive. So I think personally you can be very optimistic. And I wonder if you have any ideas.
To bounce off of what Ajahn Wade said, but to phrase it slightly differently, go in with no expectations. I remember the first time I went on a short retreat at Zen Mountain Monastery. I had all sorts of ideas of what it would be like, and I think zero of them were correct. I still had a really great time, and I loved it. But I learned that every single time I went was different. So this time, because it's going to be your first, it might be really difficult, or it might be some combination. It can change very quickly, like Ajahn said. But if you do end up having a tough time, try it out again because the next time will be different. And it might be that Goenka is not the style for you. And that's totally fine because there are tons and tons of retreat centers and monasteries that you can try out to figure out what works for you. And sometimes knowing what doesn't work for you is very helpful. So it can at least help send you in a direction that is actually what you need.
Right. Sadhu, sadhu. Good luck on your retreat. Okay. Maybe come back and tell us how it was afterward.
Yes, that'd be great to hear about. So next, Jojo Animations asks, hello, Ajahn. When it comes to Sila, do monastics and nuns slip up from time to time? Is anyone completely perfect until attainment of stream entry? Can a layperson do confessions for improvement?
So yes, monastics definitely slip up from time to time. So yes, and you mentioned confession. Maybe you're aware the monastics actually have a confession procedure given to us by the Buddha in our code of conduct, precisely because monastics can make mistakes. You know, the monastic life is a training, and it takes time, and so we have to realize when we embark on it that we're going to make mistakes, and we have to try to do our best and try to become better and better at it. And in fact, even stream enterers can break the monastic rules, and 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 I think it's not, I'm wondering if it's too much of an overstretch to say, but or if it's polite to say, but even the arhants, you know, they say really the monks, the monastics who were perfect were the Sammasambuddhas, and I guess perhaps the Pacceka Buddhas. You know. And lay people certainly can do confessions. There actually is at least one instance of this that comes to mind in the suttas. King Ajatasattu making a confession to the Buddha himself. And so yes, you may have heard me mentioning this earlier, that if you want to confess to a monastic or a teacher or a friend who is a good listener, or anyone you respect, something like this, that this can be very beneficial. You simply say that you want to open up. This is the Buddhist way of doing it. Say you want to open up this thing that's happened. So it's not just bottled up inside, it's not being concealed or anything like that, but just bring it out into the open, and ask the other person to acknowledge your confession so that they can help you to be more restrained in the future. So, yeah.
Something quick to add to what Ajahn said is if you're in need of somebody to confess to, Ajahn Kopilo just left this morning, and he helps run Clear Mountain Monastery with Ajahn Nisabo, and they have a Discord server, and in that server you can find a confession partner. So in communicating with that partner, you would set up whatever schedule works for you, and they have a traditional format that they use in both Pali and English that you would do to do these confessions with your partner. And a lot of people don't have a partner near them that they can confess with, so there's a really big community. I think there's over 1,000 people on the server at this point. So you could find somebody to make that sort of bond and connection with, someone that's also rooted in the Dhamma, so that you can do the things that Ajahn said. So it might be something worth looking into.
Yeah, again, that's Clear Mountain. You can find them on, you can just go onto Discord and find them that way.
Yep, and a link to it is also on their website if you look up Clear Mountain Monastery. So our next question, Robin asks, in formulations like thoughts of sexual pleasure, thoughts of ill will, and thoughts of cruelty. What is the difference between ill will and cruelty?
Yeah, so the way I understand, the way it was explained to me is ill will is actually being angry at someone or having hatred or something like this. And cruelty is actually thoughts of harming other living beings or even yourself simply for the pleasure of doing it, simply because you like to do that kind of thing, perhaps for fun or something like that.
Right, and it looks like there's a follow-up to that. And do either include general thoughts of aversion or just thoughts like desire for someone to come to harm, which
Yeah,
I feel like you already touched on.
right.
Nick says, is Mahayana, the sutras say we can just recite the Buddha name to go to that Pure Land. What do you say to that?
What do I say to it? Okay, so, well, so Empty Cloud is an early Buddhist text monastery, and I'm a Theravada monk ordained in Thailand, and in a meditation lineage. And it's common in the meditation lineages in Thailand to say that actually the Pure Land exists in the Western Paradise, the two-seated heaven, and the Amitabha Buddha is there. And if you recite the name of the Amitabha Buddha, you create a karmic connection with the Amitabha Buddha. Reciting his name is one way of doing that. Also doing pujas to the Amitabha Buddha. That actually this is possible. Also through having a karmic connection, such as reciting reciting a Guan Yin mantra. That Guan Yin can help you go to the Western Paradise, or Avalokiteshvara, the great Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So I think those practitioners who have have an affinity for this, they have an inclination towards it. It feels like a calling to them. It feels like something that they would like to do. They may find that in any case, if they practice in this way, that it can be very conducive to developing good qualities. So remembering the Amitabha Buddha, a Sammasambuddha, with the 9 qualities of a Sammasambuddha, can be very uplifting to the heart, and to help to develop faith in the Buddhist religion and the practices of Buddhism. And remembering the great Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara or Guan Yin, both of whom are very powerful in wisdom and compassion, can help bring up these qualities in oneself as well. And so, for many kinds of practices in Buddhism, we may have some degree of faith or other, but it'd be hard for us to say oftentimes what really is true. There can be, for many doctrines, for example, with Kamma, as a doctrine that came up earlier. We may have faith in the doctrine of Kamma, but it may be difficult for us to say we definitely know about Kamma. But we can find that with a doctrine like Kamma, if we act in line with the Buddhist teachings on Kamma, we'll find that in our lives, it makes our lives better. And so we find value in the here and now. And I think similarly with these kinds of practices, remembering the Amitabha Buddha and reciting his name, or remembering the great bodhisattvas and worshiping them, they can bring up wonderful qualities in us and make our lives better. Yeah. If you have any thoughts on that.
I don't personally know much about Pure Land, but I have quite a few Pure Land friends, both in the Japanese and the Chinese tradition. And this is a highly contentious point, so it depends upon who you ask what they think. Some think that is, yep, you recite it 10 times and you're good to go, and other ones think you need to reach a samadhi state while chanting Amitabha Buddha's name to get to the Pure Land. And I don't practice it, so I don't have too much of an opinion on either. Michelle asks if I can sneak a question.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like I'm being rude when I try to stay quiet, look down when walking, or not smiling every time to practice mindfulness and unnecessary distractions.
Okay. Right. So yes, sometimes if we're trying to focus on our mindfulness and we're out in society, we may be concerned that we come across as being rude to other people as we're trying to stay to ourselves and not be distracted by what's going on around us. And yeah, and you say you actually feel like you are being rude in some cases, and this is an opportunity to use your mindfulness and your discernment, your discretion, to kind of see what you think is happening and what's important to do in different situations. You know, of course, in many situations, it won't really make any difference. If you're riding the subway, for example, and you're simply trying to keep to yourself, you're not really going to offend anyone else. But if you walk into a room of your of peers or your coworkers or your classmates or something like this, and you don't say hello to people, then you may really come across as being rude, and it may affect your relationships with them. And so, what you may want to do is learn how to practice your mindfulness while you're interacting with other people. You know, can you mindfully speak and mindfully listen and mindfully acknowledge other people and interact with them in general in various ways? And I think you'll find that you can, by just trying to be attentive to it. It can be a little bit more complicated, and so it takes practice. And sometimes you may find that to keep your mindfulness in difficult circumstances, like if there are emotions arising that are difficult to deal with, that you may at times find it helpful to withdraw even and just be by yourself a little bit, depending on your situation. And so in this kind of a circumstance, in this kind of a situation, we, as in all situations, we simply try to develop the mindfulness and discernment to judge what to do and to be most skillful.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ryan asks, Bhantes, are 1 year retreats practiced by monastics ever? By lay practitioners? Thank you.
Oh yes, are 1 year retreats ever practiced by monastics? And certainly, even much longer retreats. At some monasteries in the Ajahn Chah lineage, in the West, for example, it's quite normal to have a 3-month retreat each year. I mention this because I ordained in the lineage of Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah was a meditation master of Thailand. Some Tibetan monks do, let's see, as I recall, it's a 3-year, 3-month, 3-day. So it's 3 years plus 3 months plus 3 days all at once in solitary meditation. So maybe in their own cabin or something like this, or in a cave by themselves, just practicing meditation all the time. And so I mentioned the 3-month retreats in the Ajahn Chah lineage, and I don't know, and it does happen sometimes that individuals will be given 1-year-long retreats in the Ajahn Chah monasteries. And in the wandering traditions, so like the Tudong traditions of Thailand and the similar traditions in Burma, Sri Lanka, and throughout the Buddhist world, some practitioners will simply go out of the monasteries and even go off on their own in nature and in practice for varying lengths of time on their own. And in lay practitioners, sure, I've heard of opportunities for lay practitioners also to practice for as long as a year. I believe the Forest Hermitage up at the Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts, for example, offers long retreats for lay practitioners. And lay practitioners can come into the monasteries as well and usually observe the 8 precepts to put more time into the meditation. Usually they would have some duties each day and there'd be some community interaction. But it may depend a little bit, whether or not this qualifies as a retreat may depend a little bit on what you mean by a retreat. Some people would call that a retreat, entering the monastery for a year. And being able to meditate in formal meditation, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours a day, as well as take part in community activities. So yeah, I think there are a wide variety of opportunities if you ask around, and if you want to do this yourself, ask around and see what you can find.
I feel like you probably already touched on this, but Ryan continues to ask, could you impart your thoughts on a one-year retreat for lay persons?
Sure. Oh, so it was Robin just asking now about them, and then Ryan's asking about one-year retreats. Okay. My thoughts about them. So as we talked about a 10-day retreat, and actually there are quite a bit of similarities about having a beginner's mind, not having expectations about what's going to happen, and also different mindsets for entering into these kinds of things, and how to benefit from it. And I guess if we talk about just do we think it'd be beneficial? Personally, I think if you have some practice already, say you've tried doing, you have a regular meditation practice, you've tried doing a 3-day retreat, maybe a 10-day retreat, and so on, because you're thinking about doing a one-year retreat. You want to consult the teacher in advance. I think until you've done a one-year retreat in community, at least to some extent, you'd want to do that before trying to do one in seclusion. But you want to have access to a teacher to help you through it, and yeah, take their advice and consult them first before entering into a one-year retreat. Of course, you want to take care of all your worldly affairs first. In general, things can crop up while you're on retreat. This happens, and so you have to bear that in mind as well. You may expect to be entering a one-year retreat and find that it's only turns out to be a 2-month retreat or a 9-month retreat, depending on what happens in life for you. Yeah, so those are some thoughts. I think in general, I think it can be a very positive thing, and I have, I've actually recommended many times that people who are very serious about their practice try to set it up, have a long-term goal to try to do a one-year retreat. So yeah, so I'm actually a proponent of it. I wonder if you have any additional thoughts. It's quite a big undertaking, one-year retreat. So. How long have you been living in Empty Cloud now?
A little over a year.
A little over a year. Okay, so you've kind of been on a one-year retreat now compared to being a worldly life, right?
Yeah.
And you had here at Empty Cloud, there was a 2-month winter retreat.
Yes.
So actually, really, the day was dedicated to formal meditation throughout the day for 2 months. Yeah. But what do you think? Any thoughts on one-year retreats that you could share, considering your past year?
I always wanted to do one, but I had a dog and I had a lot of student debt, so it just wasn't something that I could work out. So if you are in a situation where maybe you don't have kids, or you don't have a lot of bills yet, or a lot of responsibilities, take the opportunity while you can, especially if you want to have kids or a relationship or whatever it may be. I didn't have a lot of money when I was in college, but I did have the time where if I had been a little bit better with my planning and timing, I could have spent 3 months, so the summer, at the monastery I was practicing at the time. And I really, really wish I had taken that opportunity. So if it's a week, if it's 3 months, if it's a year, if you have the opportunity, do it. And if like money might be a situation, find somewhere that's easier to get to, or if you have friends and family that support you, see if they'd be willing to help you be able to do that. Some retreat centers will either do it for free or have scholarships for people because they want you to be there. So if you have a will, there's a way, and just go do it while you have the opportunity. Because I'm so happy to be here. I can't believe it's already been a year. It went by really fast, and I love it. It's great.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yeah, I wanted to do something. I thought, I don't know if I can do this. I wanted to
Adjust the camera.
turn the camera so people can see. But I don't know. Do you think we can do that?
Like Ajahn did earlier?
Yes, right.
I think so.
Thank you.
Gotta turn it down a little bit.
I'm relatively informal in mode chats. So.
There's Venerable Kevala.
I was see Seminary Kevala was looking so inspired. She was sitting motionless throughout the entire monk chat, and looking so inspiring in her meditation posture. And I thought people at home would probably be so inspired to see Seminary Kevala. Now she knew we were going to do it, so she started giggling. And so Anumotana Seminary Kevala, very dedicated practitioner. Okay,
We're very lucky to have her.
Also, you've been here in the monastery for about a year now?
I get here.
Is it about the same time as?
Sometime mid-November, so almost a
I think it was
year.
November 1.
Oh, okay. Anumotana. So about a 1-year retreat as well. Okay. All right.
So next, Julie asks, Soti Venerables, can you please discuss voluntary renunciation versus the natural falling away that naturally happens as one practices meditation and the path overall? How to determine how much to renunciate? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I have thoughts about the idea that things naturally fall away when one practices meditation, and they fall away naturally to the extent that we practice intentionally to let go. So and so it's actually, so I don't think it's really a difference with voluntary renunciation. Make the intention to voluntarily renounce things, and the practice of meditation, at least to a large extent, involves letting go of things. And so I think that it's all part of the same thing. I suppose that you can renounce things without even meditating, and so there are Buddhist practitioners who practice various aspects of Buddhism without meditating, and so there's that. But I think it's a lot easier if you also have a formal meditation practice to let go of things, to renounce things, and so. But renunciation it can be its own thing as well. We have the 10 parami in Theravada Buddhism, or spiritual virtues, usually translated into English as perfections, and renunciation is one of them. The parami, of course, are the good qualities that the bodhisattva had to develop in order to attain perfect awakening. So the Gautama Buddha had to perfect these 10 qualities over a long period of time. Renunciation, one of them, and because he had so well developed his renunciation parami, he was able to leave his beloved wife Yasodhara and his newborn son Rahula and the palace, the comforts of the palace, to go forth into homeless life to try to attain enlightenment. And it's a quality that supports the practice for all of us. And so we can simply make determinations to look at our lives and say, where are there things in my life that are excess, that I don't really need, and or that are actually problematic for me, cause problems for me, or that I suffer over unnecessarily, that aren't useful for me, and where can I cut things out to make my life lighter, or to go against the qualities of possessiveness, selfishness, greed. You can also look at it that way around, and in that way make your life better and reduce the defilements and make the heart more free. We can talk about it as renunciation is often talked about in terms of material possessions. You can also renounce many other things, our roles in life, our relationships. We can see what relationships are productive for us, which ones are causing problems for us, which ones are conducive to defilements, and which ones are conducive to developing good qualities, and see what in there we can renounce. Another way of renouncing is looking at precepts. And so the Buddha recommended for all lay people to follow the 5 precepts, because he said that if we break the 5 precepts, it'll bring suffering into our lives. And so we could renounce killing, we could renounce stealing, we could renounce sexual misconduct and lying, and renounce intoxicants. And this is extremely meritorious by Buddhist standards. In one sutta, the Buddha says that even if you gave away 84,000 in gold and silver over the course of a year, which is kind of like in modern terms saying even if you gave away millions of dollars over the course of a year in acts of generosity, the merit of that wouldn't match the merit, or the good karma, we could say, of undertaking the 5 precepts. And so it's an indication, and it's said also in the suttas that the 5 precepts are really the condition for being reborn as human again. And if you break the 5 precepts, you're quite liable to fall into the lower realms. So this is coming at it from a very religious point of view, but that's very helpful for many people to think about. And so there are the 5 precepts. And then also in the suttas, the Buddha says that integral to the lay path is 1 day a week undertaking the 8 precepts and devoting yourself to spiritual practice. There's a wonderful sutta about this in the Anguttara Nikaya. The Buddha tells his foremost female lay disciple, Lady Visakha, about this in detail. And then there are 30 or more suttas directly following it, where he discusses this with other lay people as well. And so the 8 precepts involve not just the abstention from sexual misconduct, but the abstention from all sexual activity whatsoever. And then also the abstention from eating past midday, the abstention from self-beautification and indulging in entertainment, and the abstention from using high and luxurious, or some might say imposing, high, luxurious, or imposing seats and beds. And so we renounce these kinds of comforts and sensual pleasures and so on that are related to craving and the defilements. And so this way we go against our defilements. And this is directly on the path, as I said, that the Buddha recommended for lay people. And practicing meditation, we try to pay attention to what kinds of mental states we have. Meditation is the practice of developing skillful mental states, and overcoming or abandoning unskillful mental states. So mental states related to, for example, cruelty and ill will and delusion, or the defilements of greed, aversion, and delusion. Trying to get rid of those and develop skillful mental states. And so in the process, we do quite a bit of letting go of things. If we're preoccupied with sensual pleasures, or the relationships in our lives, the roles, other things I talked about earlier, then we practice with that right in the heart, overcoming the emotions right there that cause us to be bound up with all these things. And then we'll find it a lot easier to renounce these actual things in our lives. So there's some ideas I can offer.
Thank you, Ajahn, and hope you feel better soon, Julie. Carolina follows up that she did do a Goenka retreat and found it hard to sit for 10 hours.
Yes, okay. That's a good point to mention. Yes, actually, that's something to expect, is that actually if you're going to be sitting for long periods of time, it can be difficult on the body. Something I didn't think to mention earlier, yes. And so if you have a stretching routine that you do, stretching routines and exercises like that can be very helpful. So it occurs to me, actually, I know of a pamphlet of stretches and exercises that was written by an Ajahn who was a physiotherapist in lay life. And so I wonder if it's possible if I would like to be able to share it with people. I'm not sure how to do so through this interface. So,
if you're interested, email the monastery and I'll get it from Ajahn Wade so that you can have the pamphlet. I'm also interested.
Okay, great, wonderful. All right, good plan. Thank you. Yeah, and so it's one thing to know about that. Also, if you do experience physical discomfort, talk with the teachers about how to work with it. And we remember when we're meditating that if we experience physical discomfort in meditation, that it's good practice for us in dealing with pain in general in life. Because pain is a natural part of life. Pain, discomfort, and so we try not to have aversion to it, push it away, and so on like this in general, and use it as a way to grow in wisdom and other good qualities.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience with that as well.
So NK asks, Dear Bantes, do you ever practice Four Elements meditation? Do you have any advice for beginners, or is it not an essential practice?
I have. Honestly, I don't practice it very much. I did, for a short period of time, I practiced it more kind of intensively, you might say. Although it wasn't really, actually, I have to admit it wasn't intensive, but I practiced it more. And yes, okay. So I thought it was a very good meditation object myself, and of course, it's a very traditional meditation object. It's one of the official meditation objects of the Theravada tradition, and the idea is to try to analyze your sensory experience in terms of the four elements. So the elements of earth, water, wind, and fire, or earth, water, air, and fire. These are matter in its three phases. So solid, liquid, or gaseous, and energy is fire or is heat. And there are more advanced practices also of practicing with the element of space and the elements of consciousness. Those are more advanced. And in terms of advice for beginners, you practice analyzing your experience in terms of these four, and you want to be attentive to whether or not it's helping the mind to become calm and let go of things and kind of see things clearly as they are. One aspect of it is as we're relating with physical objects, for example, and other living beings, the perceptions and the ideas about them being inherently existing physical objects, or that the bodies, when we see the bodies of other people, and when we see our own bodies in the mirrors, then we don't see them just as people, but really we recognize them as the matter and the energy that they are. And this is conducive to having a breakthrough to the first insight knowledge, as well as greater insight as well. But the first insight knowledge of the discrimination of mind and matter. That within each of us we have a mind, and the mind is different from the material aspects of us. And then the mind becomes self-aware for the first time. And so that can help guide us on the practice, I think, knowing where this is going, and analyzing the bodies and the world around us in terms of these four different aspects of matter and energy. And so different meditation objects are suitable for different personality types in general. They say that breath meditation, at least they say this in the meditation circles in Thailand, that breath meditation is suitable for all personality types. I think they say it also in the Theravada tradition as well. But it's a quality of this one meditation object. But other meditation objects are suitable for different personality types. And it's best to have the guidance of a teacher who can help you gauge how you're doing with it. And that's an important piece of advice for someone who's beginning the practice. And see what kind of results you get. As I said, if it helps make the mind calm, and the mind becomes clear, and you're able to develop your mindfulness with it, and develop this kind of perception. It could, if you're trying to analyze things around you and your body and others' bodies and so on, in terms of things, it could also, on the other hand, be conducive to the mind getting scattered or thinking a lot, which would be kind of a different direction we want to go to. Yeah. So there you go.
Thank you, Ajahn. So Suzanne asks, Dear Venerables, could you explain some techniques for awareness of not self?
Would you like to start?
Hmm.
If not, it's okay. I can say something.
Yeah, if you want to
Come
start.
back in. All right, so so in general, when talking about not self, we might talk about the one that's most the formulation for not self that is most frequently referred to in the suttas. So in the suttas, we see references to many different self doctrines and many different kinds, and but the one that comes up most frequently is the idea of an atta, or a self that is permanent and satisfactory. And so the Buddha, when talking to his disciples, and sometimes when debating with other philosophers, would point out that the various formations, the various phenomena we come across in life are actually impermanent and unsatisfactory, and therefore they're not us and ours. So I was talking about elements meditation just a moment ago, and one example of this is the Buddha talking about form, the aggregate of rupa, as it's called in Pali. So it's everything that we classified as matter and energy. Again, these four elements. And the Buddha says, if we think about form, whether it's your own body or anything that's internal in the body or anything that's external, it's all impermanent. It comes into being, it changes, and it passes away. And in that which is impermanent, he say, you can't find lasting satisfaction in it. It's not ultimately satisfying. And he said, and since this doctrine of self, about that there is such a thing as a self that is permanent and satisfying, was a prevalent doctrine at the time the Buddha was arguing against with regard to these different aspects of our lives. He'd say that the body is impermanent, it's unsatisfactory, so it doesn't qualify to be called us and ours by this kind of a doctrine. And this is very conducive to letting go, which is the point. If we can let go of the elements of samsara, here in the samsara being the round of birth and death that we're enmeshed in, then we can go to the lasting and satisfying pleasure and safety of nibbana. And so this was a methodology of letting go, noticing that the body, for example, our bodies are not really us and ours. They come into our lives and we have some influence on them, but we can't really control them. And we can't gain lasting permanent satisfaction from them. They're bound to age and get sick and experience other health problems and eventually to die. Excuse me. And so the Buddha recommended letting go of them with this kind of a methodology of investigation, so that we don't suffer when we have these experiences of old age, disease, and death, for example, as well as many other kinds of difficult experiences, and then can go beyond the desire for having bodies in general. And so we also can use this methodology with other aspects of our experience. For example, our emotions, and our perceptions of things, and our thoughts, and our sensations, our physical sensations as well. They're also impermanent. They're constantly changing, and they arise and they pass away. And we can't gain any permanent satisfaction from them, no matter how pleasant they may be or how unpleasant they may be. They're going to come in and out of our lives, and they're not really us and ours. And so it's a way of letting go of these things.
Right, thank you, Ajahn. So this is one of my favorite topics. So I was thinking, what do I actually do to work with this? Because for a little while, it felt kind of abstract, and I feel like that's something a lot of people feel about this. And some of the things I do are not in the suttas. For example, one of my favorite ways to practice not self is I go and I donate blood regularly. So I'll have this like tube in my arm, and I'll see the blood coming out of me. And that used to be in my body. I called that mine. and now it's in the bag, and it's going to be in somebody else's body. So is that still me, or is it them at that point? So it's a way of seeing something that I would normally, under like the current circumstances, consider mine, and contemplate, actually, no, this isn't mine. And I found that to be really great, actually, even though it's not something you'll find in the suttas at all. Um, and then other practices, the Buddha will often go through that sequence of questions like, is that which is impermanent and unsatisfactory something you want to consider to be yourself? And of course, the monastics always answer no. So I would explore why. So, like, for me, for example, I have a lot of unsatisfactoriness with my right knee. I don't want that to be mine. It sucks. So, just really looking at your experience and really seeing, yeah, I can't control this body, the good things or the bad things. And yeah, those were the main things to come to mind immediately. But I feel like Ajahn gave a really good, thorough answer, so I don't have too much more to add to it.
That's a really great concrete example of giving blood. In the knee, also is a great example, concrete example of how to use this. And you tune into that, in your experience, noticing impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. These things that we have a tendency to identify with. If we buy that new sports car that we've always wanted, and we notice, actually, there could be quite a strong bit of identification with that, right? The new sports car. And just to give one kind of a common example, and if you notice that and work with these contemplations, impermanence of the sports car, and how it can't be ultimately satisfying. It's not really you and yours. Someday that sports car is going to pass out of your life, and it won't be under your control necessarily, right? And you can do the same kind of contemplation with the roles in your life, your job, for example, and your relationships. We identify very strongly with the people in our lives, for example, and our pets, and so on. And the point being that when these things inevitably change and do pass out of our lives, that we don't suffer as much because of it. And we can contemplate these kinds of things in a kind of a normal state of mind, you might say. We can contemplate them also when we're suffering. And we can also bring them up intentionally when we've made the mind calm in meditation. And if we do that, when the mind is calm already, then greater letting go can happen, and greater relief oftentimes. And so that's another aspect of it too. Yeah, different states of mind practicing.
And something else that came to mind too, just now, is in my personal experience. In the past, I would get really defensive if somebody corrected me on something, especially if they told me to do it that way and then told me I did it wrong, because it happened a couple times at my job. And that really got me going. So if Ajahn here was like, Samanera, you really shouldn't have done whatever that way, it's correct to do it this way. Instead, if that defensiveness comes up, regardless of if Ajahn is right or not, I can be like, thank you, Ajahn, because that is such a great opportunity to have laser focused attention to where yourself is. Like being a perfectionist, or, oh, they should have been clear the first time, or, oh man, Ajahn, he's a targeting me. He never says these sort of things to the other venerables, or whatever. So it can be a real opportunity when you're getting feedback to see where you're really attached to your self-image, and then find ways to let that go. And also a great opportunity to practice patience and metta, both with yourself and the other person.
Sadhu, great, yeah.
All right. So Nick says, some Mahayana mantras bring worldly benefits, but I thought Buddhism is about renunciation and just letting things go, or acceptance. Is it wrong view for me to recite even if I'm not fully convinced?
Oh, okay. Well, so great question. Um, yeah, so in Buddhism we have methodologies for making our lives better in the here and now, making our lives better in future rebirths, and overcoming all suffering altogether by going to nibbana or nirvana. You know. And so here in the Theravada school, for example, we find in our Pali Suttas, we find a wide range of advice to help people become more wealthy and prosperous in their in lay life, for example, about how to get along with each other within families in lay life, and also how to have a better rebirth. For example, how to be reborn as in a good human rebirth in the next birth, or how to be reborn in the heavens in the next rebirth, for example, and uh, and then also, as I said, of course, how to follow the path to enlightenment, and there are benefits to these. For example. You mentioned worldly benefits. I don't know exactly what you mean, but for people who are in worldly life, for lay people, there are quite a few things that are really quite important to have. It's important to have a good livelihood, for example, that at least helps you meet your basic needs. And another kind of worldly benefit could be good relationships with other people and other living beings around you. And this is all could be quite valuable, not only just so you don't suffer as much, but it also can be conducive to Dhamma practice as well. If you don't have to worry too much about your material requisites, then you may be able to meditate better, for example. Similarly, if you have good community harmony with your coworkers and the people in your community and within your family, for example, then it's then maybe easier to practice Dhamma. And so this isn't necessarily wrong at all. If we become greedy for money, then this could be problematic for us. It could be counterproductive for our Dhamma practice, and actually develop our defilements. And so that wouldn't be good. And so we want to use and that's just one example. And so we want to use again the qualities of mindfulness and discernment. Use our intelligence and our savvy, really to see what's happening within us. And that's why it's so valuable to also have, for example, a formal meditation practice. Try to practice meditation every day, so you can make the mind calm and really see what's happening internally, and make skillful decisions.
Thank you, John. So NK says, are there any similes or stories that you often remember or that really help you or motivate you?
Sure. I think there are probably several. One that comes to mind that I think is quite helpful is maybe relates to some of the things that came up earlier. Perhaps that's why it's conditioned by this. We're talking about pain and meditation on a meditation retreat, for example. And one simile that just came to mind is a simile of Ajahn Chah's. Ajahn Chah, again, was a meditation master of Thailand. And he said that spiritual practice is quite like the work of a coconut palm tree. Okay, so if you imagine a tall palm tree that grows coconuts, he said the coconut tree pulls up the dirty water from the soil, and then works with it in conjunction with the nutrients of the soil itself and the sunlight and so on to produce this sweet and wonderful coconut fruit. Yeah. He says spiritual practice is like that as well. It would be some what we might call dirty things, things that cause us suffering, things we don't really want to consume in our lives. But through the spiritual practice, we convert them into the sweet spiritual fruits of wisdom and other good qualities. And so I find that motivating and inspiring in spiritual practice.
Thank you, Ajahn. There's so many really good similes. So I'll just say the one that came to my mind first. I also think it's conditioned from where I grew up. I grew up right on the ocean. So for me, it was very frequent that when I was looking at it, I would think I have cried more tears in the amount of time that I've been circling around samsara than would fill up the entire ocean. And it's just incredible how vast it is just from what you can see from the shore. And where I was from, it was technically only the Sound, so Long Island was on the other side, and it still looked endless. So I would just think it would sometimes make my hair stand on edge and think, wow, I need to do something about this. It just it made it a very real, very literally visible, just how important this practice is and how important nibbana is. Because if I'm not skillful in this life, if I don't do the best I can to create the conditions for nibbana in this life or in other lives, I I might have many more aeons of lives, and I might anyway, where I fill up these oceans that I'm looking at now, and that sounds awful. Or another one, instead of tears, it's either the sutta before or after, where the Buddha says your head has been chopped off and you're bleeding out from that severance of your head. More blood than would fill up the oceans, and that's also a really powerful image. Uh,
Yes.
so not as happy as Ajahn, but it came up a lot for me. Less now that I'm not on the shore, but if you've never seen the ocean, recommend it just so you can recollect the simile.
Yeah, very motivating. Yeah. Well, you know, I mentioned earlier. No, it isn't kind of the norm in doing the monk chats, but earlier when we didn't have many questions, we ran out of questions at one point. I said we'd also open up for questions from people here, and so maybe I should be good to my word. And it looks like we've got more questions here typed in. Maybe we give a chance for anyone who's here to ask a question if they'd like. We also have opportunities at tea time here and during the public events to ask questions. But would any of you like to ask any questions? Or if any may have come up for you in the course of the evening, hearing these questions here? Yes, okay, Tio? Yes.
Maybe it's not on topic,
Okay.
but I was wondering if you ever practice dynamic meditation.
Which meditation?
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Dynamic meditation.
And what do you think about that?
Well, I'm not familiar with it, I have to admit.
Yeah,
How would you describe it? Neither of you, okay. How would you describe it?
I'm not very familiar either, so that's why I was asking you.
Oh, okay.
But is the one Osho created?
Osho. Okay, Osho, I think a Japanese Zen master.
Indian.
Indian. Oh, okay, so I've never heard of him myself, yeah.
I've heard of him, but I really don't know how he teaches, so I don't have much of a thought on it.
He was very popular because he created a city in Oregon.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure if you heard, but they deported him I think in 90s they deported him.
oh,
Mm.
okay. But you heard positive things about the meditation practice probably, and so you wondered if we had any thoughts about it.
I think it's Kanuli from yoga.
Oh, Kundalini maybe.
Yeah,
Right, okay,
it's like something similar. They brought it from that one.
yeah. Okay.
So
Do you have any
it's-
thoughts on Kundalini meditation?
But it looks like Anagarika might know something about
Yeah,
it.
I'm familiar with it. I can tell you more about it later, but it's not a Buddhist practice.
Yeah, I know it's not a Buddhist practice,
Yeah.
but I know Osho was Buddhist. He was born in India, and he kind of like brought it there to America.
We can chat another time.
Sure.
But this is mostly Buddhist, right? Staying on topic with Buddhism.
Well, that's all right though, but yeah. That's it. Okay. Thanks for the question though. Sorry we couldn't answer it now. Yeah. Did you have a question, Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
How, if someone finds themselves when they're in like a, say, more like a, I don't know, put this public meditation, like group meditation, if they find that when they're sitting still, it's very rigid, like almost like very tight, like you don't move, and it doesn't feel very relaxed or at ease. It's kind of very tense. Kind of like forceful, kind of. Sometimes it feels it's like you're almost like a soldier. You're like most of the practice is just not moving instead of doing something more tranquil or relaxing. How would you what would you recommend for someone who doesn't feel too relaxed sitting for long periods of time in stillness and kind of forgets what the practice is? It's like what, like it's almost like this tensing, very tensing.
Yeah, that can be kind of preoccupying, so you forget you can't really put the mind on the meditation object that you wanted to practice with. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lack of passaddhi or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So the question, I don't know how easy it is for those who are online to hear this, but Joseph is asking about when we're sitting for a substantial period of time, and the body gets tense or tight to a degree that it distracts us from the meditation theme that we were trying to practice with. Do we have any thoughts on how to work with that? And I think so. If we feel like it's okay to we can even take the mind away from, or not be concerned about the meditation theme that we had been practicing with. Then we could take the physical sensations that are currently happening as the meditation object. And so if we notice the sensations that are there with a mind that kind of also allows them to relax. From the point of view, though, that we're not necessarily trying to make them relax, but simply to be aware of them and experience them as they are. And that if we can know them and experience them as they are, if we allow the mind to let go, then it may, and things may relax through this letting go process. But the knowing actually comes first. That the mind can experience it just as it is, without the kind of the emotions and the thoughts and all this kind of thing. But can you experience them, experience the sensations with some continuity, so you can see kind of the impermanence and the unsatisfactoriness and the not-self aspect of it, with allowing it to let go, that it can let go and everything can relax, can slowly relax. That's one idea. It may also be helpful to have some compassion. People often find this, and so if you find that, for example, a particular part of the body, or perhaps the whole body, but for example, if a particular part of the body is tense, maybe the back, for example, this is a common one, or the shoulders and the neck might get really tense or tight. If you have the mind there, you're feeling some aversion to this, these sensations can be very difficult to be with, right? So, if you think, may my shoulders, for example, or my back, may my shoulders be free of suffering, or may they be at ease. Yeah. As you're trying to be with them, then this compassion kind of displaces, oftentimes, or usually it displaces the aversion that we might naturally feel. And then that is with that kind of emotional and mental suffering dissipating, then it's so much easier to be with the actual sensations themselves. And then they can slowly ease up and relax, So that's one idea. Another idea is if you find that actually really you should be practicing with another theme, sometimes that happens, Like if we're angry, for example, about something, maybe something happened just before we sat down to meditate, for example. We may feel like, I really need to practice with this, practice some loving kindness, just for example, just one kind of example. And you want to stay with that theme, then you may just take some other measures. You may get up and practice some walking meditation if you can, or get up and do some stretching, or at least change your posture, and do it very mindfully, and do it with some discernment, because we don't want to be just reactive. So if we're experiencing physical discomfort, we don't want to just always be reactive to that, and push it away, or change your posture or whatever. Because as I was saying earlier, of course, physical discomfort is unfortunately a part of life. And if we can practice with it in our meditation, then we're better equipped to deal with it when, in all different kinds of circumstances we run into in life. Right? So, yeah. That's what I suggestion. All right. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
We've got, just a few minutes left. Okay.
I think we got 2 questions left, so maybe, depending upon how long this one takes, we'll be able to do both of them.
Maybe, okay.
So Mr. says, I'm fearful of enlightenment in changes I've experienced. No one ever talks about fear caused by changes in the mind.
No one ever talks about fear change. I think somebody probably must have at some point. Just teasing a little bit, mister, but I think fear caused by changes in the mind. Oh, well, sure. Yeah, all different kinds of things can happen in the mind. And I think people can be quite unsettled by what their mind is doing. It's sometimes, right? Some people might even be afraid of converting to Buddhism, for example, or starting to agree with the Buddhist teachings. Just one example. um, they may have cherished views they were quite attached to. And what does this mean for me if I change my identity in some way or other? It's just one kind of example. But this is an interesting question. Okay, thanks for writing this in. I'm fearful of enlightenment and changes I've experienced. And so maybe it's along these lines that I was just talking about. So enlightenment and maybe other kinds of changes of growing in wisdom or letting go of things or things like this. And yes, I think this actually comes up relatively commonly. Yeah, that people may feel like, for example, just some examples that come up are people feel like they start to see the suffering in some aspects of their lives that actually they've always thought were quite important to them, and actually may still feel like are quite important to them. But now they see that there's actually quite a bit of suffering involved with them, and how do they work with that? And it's just one kind of example. Or if they, for example, how do they let go of something that actually I think is quite important to them, but which they also see causes them suffering? And what will it mean to them if they are successful in letting go? What will happen to their lives if they let go of something that they thought was important to them? These are just, as I said, just some examples that can come up. And I think that change in general can be disconcerting. It doesn't necessarily have to be, of course, but it can be. And in the future is uncertain in general in life. We never really know what's going to happen in the future. One thing we can look at is that if we're growing in qualities that we think are good, if we practice our meditation, for example, it can make the mind calm and notice, that this is maybe coming about because we're developing good qualities. If we're developing wisdom, for example, or other good qualities like self-control or generosity or loving kindness or whatever, what have you, if you can notice that whatever changes are taking place in our different views are taking place because we're developing good qualities, then we can take heart in that. We can kind of take refuge in that this is good. And that as you grow in these good qualities, you'll try to handle situations to the best of your ability in skillful ways. And that with the help of a teacher and the help of spiritual friends and other people who are helpful to you, that just as you've gotten through other difficult and trying times in life, that you'll be able to navigate ones in the future. And in fact, better and better because of the good qualities you're growing in. And try to be optimistic in that way. That was kind of long. Maybe I should let you take the next one.
Well, the only thing I'd add to Ajahn, because you didn't say what type of changes you're experiencing, is if they're negative, then it would be good to talk to a teacher to make sure how you're practicing is correct. Because practicing the Dhamma shouldn't make you miserable or cause harmful, unwholesome qualities. Just to cover that base.
Right.
So the last question is quite long.
Okay.
Namasakan Bhante. That what I've learned about Dhamma makes me understand everything is anicca, not permanent. And also anicca that I understand is we can't control.
Anatta.
Yes, and also anatta that I understand is we can't control things. If we try to control, that means we don't see anicca. That's why dukkha arises. That's what I understand, Bhante, about anicca and anatta, about thing not permanent and can't control thing, and that two things will cause suffering if they try to keep it. But it's so hard to let go.
Yeah.
That's why for the Buddha to have a level to keep learning, and that's it.
Oh, okay. And then
So she might still be typing.
might be typing more. Okay. So we may not see the continuation of this question, unfortunately, because we're running out of time. But there's quite a bit here to work with. So yeah, so you've got a lot there that you really understand about teachings on impermanence and dukkha, which you're talking about in terms of suffering and not self. And there are other aspects of dukkha as well. That there's it isn't just because we don't understand suffering that we experience dukkha, but we also can experience dukkha just through the natural physical processes of life. Experience old age, disease, and old age and disease, for example. Disease is a very, very prominent example that physical suffering is very real. And also that because things change, they can't give us lasting, permanent satisfaction, as I was discussing before. So it's another way of understanding the word dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. But yes, it can be quite hard to let go. It can be quite hard to attain enlightenment. But if we remember that the idea of letting go is that to not be emotionally attached to things, and that if we can let go of the emotional attachment to things, that then we experience relief and a lightness in the heart. This can be hard to have faith in, and it can be hard for the heart to really do with regard to things that we've held on to that are very, very important to us, that seem very important to us. And in the end, we have to let go of the notion of ourselves, which is perhaps the very hardest thing to do. But we work at it little by little over time. And as I mentioned earlier, it's letting go is we're most effective at it when the mind is calm, and so hence the value of having meditation practice founded on morality and other good spiritual qualities. But as we do it little by little with various things in our lives, then the heart begins to learn about the value of letting go. It has the good experience, the pleasant experience of letting go, and the relief, and this makes it easier. And so we also have to be patient with ourselves in the process. And so if we notice we're suffering over the fact that we haven't been successful in letting go of everything yet, then we can be aware of that. If we're mindfully aware of that, then that can go a long way to helping us let go of that impatience and the suffering over letting go and make the whole process easier. So that's what I can recommend. I wonder if you have any thoughts also.
Okay. Things are very thorough, Bajang.
Okay.
So at this point, we are at 9 o'clock. So I think that at this point we could conclude with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for everyone that joined us online. For anybody that might be new, we have programs at 8 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we also have in-person programs at 6 o'clock to 7:30 on Saturday. And on Sunday, it's an all-day thing. The meditation program being from 1 to 4. So we'd love to meet you in person if you happen to be nearby. And we do have residency opportunities where you can apply online. So come by, a lot of lovely people online. And I hope you all have a wonderful night, and good to see you next week.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention about the Sundays is it's also, I think, one of the wonderful things here at Empty Cloud is that you also have the meal offering on Sundays as well, right? Of course,
Yep.
there are meal offering opportunities all throughout the week. You can be signed up for and so on like this, but on Sundays it is kind of open to the entire community. No one has to sign up in advance to be the person offering day. And it's quite a vibrant community here on Sundays, and when do people arrive for that? Please remind me. Is it you'd ask people to arrive with their dishes by 10:30 a.m.? Is that right?
Yeah, people will start showing up by 10:30 because we have the meal offering at 11. So that way it gives plenty of time for everybody to do whatever they need to do.
Okay, and then so usually there could be So there'll be a meal offering to the Sangha, the monastic Sangha, and then so an act of generosity, and then time for usually a short Dhamma reflection, as well as giving a blessing. The monastics give a blessing to everyone. And everyone else has the opportunity to put food into the monastics' bowls. So right here within the monastery building, the monastics each come around with their bowls, and people put the food a little bit of food into the monks' bowls, which is be a very be quite a nice experience. Many of the lay people really like this. And then, as I said, the blessing and the short Dhamma reflection usually, and then all the lay people have the opportunity to partake of food as well, kind of like a potluck, and a very social occasion. It's very vibrant, and then the cleanup afterward, which would be quite substantial. So many people, but a lot of hands to help out. It's quite a happy occasion as well. Before the meditation and Dhamma session starts at 1 o'clock, goes from 1 to 4. So,
All right.
all right.
Thank you,
Sadhu.
Ajahn, and good night, everybody. Hope
Best
to see
wishes,
you next
everyone.
time.